Hello, everybody. We're here for Week 23 Fantasy Outlook. We have our resident fantasy specialist, as usual, Derek. Say hello, Derek.
What's up, guys?
And Derek found another panelist to join him. His name is Chris. Say hello, Chris.
Hey, everybody.
So Derek and Chris are going to give you your Week 23 fantasy outlook. The floor is yours, Derek. And Derek, just whenever you want me to switch to Chris, just like say "and now" to Chris, so I can switch the screen to him.
All right. Well, welcome to Week 23, folks. We are at another 14 double game week. This week involves Orlando City, Toronto, Montreal, and the New York Red Bulls for this double game week. Your transfers will concede at August 5th, 8 p.m. Don't know what game that is, but just make sure you get your transfer on there. Last week for Week 22, I finished at about, I think it was 71 or 73 points. Not bad. Started off really well for me with Ignacio Piatti getting 15 points. I probably could have done better. I had a lot of ones or twos for whatever reason. I had two of my players subbed off at halftime. What about you, Chris? How'd you do in Week 22?
Had a very solid week. 84 points altogether. A little bit short of the. I was in the top 100. Very good week. The only real dud in the entire bunch was Kamara. Did really good with captaining David Villa. Had Giovinco that only played a half also, but good week. Had Nacho Piatti there, and overall good week though. And shockingly, the two fire players I have, Polster and Garrig, got me a shutout. So 16 points
between those two.
16 points between those two, and Garrigg's actually my most expensive defender, 5.2 million now. So it's good to keep a cheap budget backline that can produce.
Exactly. For those of you who don't know, me and Chris are both proponents of the budget backline. I don't think either of us has a defender over $6 now. I just dropped Tyrone Mears, who is my only defender over $6. I picked up Eric Garrett because he has a double game week here in a few weeks. And he's a good freaking player, by the way. So, like I said, we had the 14 double game week this week. But let's focus on these. Actually, we have two buys this week. FC Dallas and New England are on buy, if I'm not mistaken. So we're going to focus on the single game week options. We do have 14 teams this week on single game weeks. You're obviously going to have some single game week players. I have a few good options out there I can throw out. Benny Feilhaber is one of my top single game week options if you have him. He's playing Toronto on the road. Toronto is not going to have Michael Bradley. Their defense is just terrible. And, Benny Feilhaber is just a good player in general. The guy can score. SKC, I'm expecting a win for them. Hopefully a goal for Feilhaber. You're not going to captain him. You're going to captain a double game week player this week. But we'll get to that later. We also have Javier Morales, Real Salt Lake. I'd watch him. RSL is starting CONCACAF Champions League this week, so just beware of the travel schedule with RSL. Then you have Kamara playing Colorado. Always a good decision to play your players. And then lastly, Robbie Keane is at home against Seattle, who's been an absolute dumpster fire about the last month and a half. You have any other single game week options, Chris?
Robbie Keane really breaks it down for me. That is the number one single game week. Actually, if you want a good differential pick as a captain, Keane might be a good bet there. He lights Seattle up just about every time he plays them. They're at home. Seattle's an absolute disaster right now. If you didn't want to go for a risky differential, Keane is definitely the place to go there.
I mean, Keane's owned by, I think, around 15% of the players in MLS Fantasy. LA's been on absolute fire, especially at home. I think they had 19 goals in their last 4 home games. They're just destroying the crap out of teams. Seattle lost at home to Vancouver 3-0 this past weekend, so I'm not expecting much from them. Even though they do have Clint Dempsey back, they just do not look well at all. And
I agree, absolutely.
I would pick on that team as much as possible until they show they could actually play the game of soccer again. I don't know what the hell they're doing. And yet they're still in the playoffs in the Western Conference. How the hell does that work out?
It just shows how they started off strong.
No, we didn't give you any single game week defenders because usually the defenders you have are good enough. Really, defenders an absolute crapshoot every week. You don't know who's going to get a clean sheet. You don't know who's going to do what. I mean, Matt Polster got 8 points last week. That says it all.
Exactly.
Double game week options, I'm investing very heavily in this week. I probably have Kaká. I have Piatti. I definitely have Kyle Larin. You should have Kyle Larin. I mean, 5 goals in 2 games.
$6.2 million. Also, it's a good budget price for a double game player.
He's not going to play 180 minutes. That's for damn sure. But the way he's producing, you don't need him to. You need him to play 120. That's all you really need. And he'll probably.
And if Roches forgets his passport in Canada again, will be good for 90 in the second game.
Oh, truth. We have Toronto at Toronto. Like I said, Toronto's defense just does not look well. I mean, they gave up 4 to New York a few weeks ago. They gave up 3 to Columbus last week before coming back 3-3. And we're playing us, who we scored 8 goals in 2 games, 5 of them from that guy, Kyle Larin.
That guy.
I don't see why you shouldn't start him. At 6.2, he's an absolute bargain basement steal for strikers, especially when most of them are priced like Robbie Keane up at 11.5.
Yep, $6 million just makes too much sense there. And Toronto is pretty decimated too. Depending on the Bradley injury, that backline's an absolute disaster there. So
Bradley,
in addition to Larin,
Bradley's definitely
Kaká's a great bet too.
The still kicking at TFC guy, Mark was his name. He came on Match Preview. He said Bradley may play. So
Oof.
that's what he said.
Altidore definitely won't.
No, Altidore's out on red.
Speaking of Altidore, that guy has an extreme propensity for the dumbest damn red cards I've ever seen.
I agree. He's such a moody player. I mean, there's weeks he produces fantastic 2 goals. He produces 12, 8, but other weeks 2 or 1 with his disciplinary issues.
I took my fantasy team. I saw Sebastian Jovinko at 1 point, and I'm like, what the hell happened here? Look at it. He only played 45 minutes. When you look at Altidore's red card, you just can't help but to think about how crazy that drove Craig Vanny, especially when you're in a playoff race and you're in a way and you have a chance to get 3 points at a playoff contender in New England, and you do that. Jeez.
Yes, and it was senseless too. I mean, just an absolute waste. And now they're just in with Moore's injury also in the forward spot there. They're going to rely on Robbie Finley and Dyke, and that's just a nightmare situation for them, even with Giovinco.
That is an absolute recipe for disaster.
The match preview guy said that you might be able to get a good game. They might have a good game out of a player called Asario, and he said that he would be he would most likely say if Giovinco's not going to score against us, it's going to be Asario. So if you guys are goal hunting for somebody cheap, might be an option.
Asario's a nice $7 million price on him, and that makes a lot of sense for the budget-minded.
Altidore is not going to play Wednesday, so I may look at Asario because we all know Seb Hines is terrible, and he's going to start Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
So
we do. I think we're going to get some goal. I wouldn't invest in the Toronto or Orlando backline in the next in this double game week. It's just I think both games are actually going to be high scoring affairs, and
neither team
it wouldn't
knows
surprise me if we get 3-2 tomorrow night in favor of Orlando City, of course.
Neither of those two teams, Toronto or Orlando, knows what a clean sheet is. I only know Toronto's last clean sheet. Ours was at home against Colorado, which was over a month ago. I mean,
it feels like ages ago.
Sure. At least
I think we've only gotten 2 out of Tally so far since he got back to health. So
exactly.
He really gets too much pressure on him. The center backs aren't up to par at times. Colin's really carrying the show back there. So you really hope they're the best, and we just can only hope Dave Mateus comes in and starts to perform like we certainly hope he can.
If he plays anything better than Hines, he'll be a fantasy option. He's really cheap. But we'll move on to the double game week options for Orlando. We do have Kaká. He's a good option. Kyle Larin, like we said. Other than that, there's only one other player in Orlando I'd choose, and this may shock you. Darwin Seren is a pretty good cheap midfielder this week. Averages 4 to 5 points a game.
And at $6.6 million, it's a fantastic price.
I mean, he's producing like Felipe from New York did earlier this year, and Felipe is over $2 higher than Seren. So if you need that cheap bargain basement midfielder to go get a high-priced striker, Darwin Seren is your guy. Please look at him. He's owned by less than 1% of MLS Fantasy.
Definitely one where you can sneak in. People are very hesitant to invest with the defensive-minded midfielders naturally because they don't get the bonus points and they're not always for goals. But Seren has produced very well for that spot, and 6.6, it makes a lot of sense. It really does, and the best part is there's no bye week coming up, so he's a safe bet to invest in for the future also.
For Toronto, our double game week options, it's Jovinko. That's pretty much it. Their defense is terrible. I'm not touching their goalie. I'm not touching anyone else except Jovinko.
Nope, it's Giovinco or bust on Toronto. There's no other options there.
Now, Montreal has quite a few options, especially since there are a lot of budget basement. We'll start Evan Bush. You can take Evan Bush. Just beware, they're playing New York and DC United this week, but they are at home, which kind of offsets some of that. Montreal has made some of the better teams in this league look like absolute garbage at home.
And I actually have Evan Bush on my team. I'm pretty well loaded. I have 3 Montreal players on my team: Bush, Toya, and Piatti. I think Piatti's really the only must-own Montreal player in my opinion.
I do have Donnie Toya as well. I think he's only $5 now. Always a good bet for a cheap bargain basement defender.
And while we're on this, I also think there is going to be some temptation for some to look at Dieter Drogba there. A lot of people are talking about it as a differential. I wouldn't touch him this week until he's established some minutes there. At $10 million, it's a little bit too much of a risk, and it's not going to be much of a differential.
That's the thing with the mid-season DPs. You gotta make sure they're actually playing, a la Frank Lampard. Ooh, he played 30 minutes. He's so awesome. Fucking New York. They did lose to Montreal away. That was a great result for Montreal. Really great result for them. And they're looking forward to getting in the playoffs. I think first time ever they're going to the playoffs, if they make it. They got
if they do, yes. We might have something to say about that.
They got games in hand on everyone. And for future reference, they do have a triple game week in week 29. And
good luck plotting around that one.
Exactly. But lastly, we do have those asshead New York Red Bulls. They're pretty good for fantasy option. Luis Robles, always a good decision for your goalkeeper. Less than 5.5, double game week. Plays New York City at home. Always a good decision. Defenders, I have Connor Lade and Matt Miazga on my team. They're both below $6, and they're both good options for this week. Hopefully I get a clean sheet out of them.
And Matt gets a ton of CBI bonus points also, so
Bingo.
He's a very, very good bet to have back there.
Bingo. Matt Miazga is probably the best defender under $6 outside of Eric Gehrig. You go to their midfield now. Their attacking midfield, you can take any of them and just plug them in. Lloyd Sam's always a good decision, even though he hasn't been getting us fantasy numbers up to where they were earlier in the year. Sean Wright-Phillips looked pretty good in his first game with New York.
But we're going to see some limited minutes there, though.
Exactly. It's going to be weird with him and Grella.
But that leaves one big option there, and it's the recent, since they've taken PK duties away from Bradley Wright Phillips, Clijstons's right there for the taking
I'll
at
tell you right
9.5
now,
million.
the first thing I did this morning at 9 a.m. was add Sasha Clefton to my team.
Very much a wise decision at this stage, considering the production, the PKs, and a pretty good chance of going 180 this week.
His numbers the last 4 or 5 weeks have been absolutely phenomenal. I know he's a flopper and a diver, but as far as fantasy goes, I don't give a crap. I just want him to score points. Like you said, he does take PK duties now. He did score a PK in their win this weekend. That leaves us with Bradley Wright Phillips. What are we going to do with the New York striker?
Probably the toughest decision of the week, and an awful lot of make and break on squads out there for this one, because you have the 11 million options with Keane, you have Vila, you have Bradley Wright Phillips there, and it's a really tough decision for people.
I've been highly considering it. If not, I always got Kai Kamara waiting in the wings.
But we're looking at the Kamara cool-off possibly, though. We definitely shut him down last Saturday night. We turned him into Cry Kamara, and it was a very, very wonderful evening at the Citrus Bowl. But
we broke his freaking heart.
Is this the end of Columbus's hot form?
Oh, Columbus's defense has looked like absolute hot garbage fire lately. I would not be shocked if that continues soon. Actually, they do play Colorado this weekend. If they lose that game, it's probably time to worry about all their players, not just Kamara. Like any Columbus fantasy option, they should not be losing to Colorado.
Plus, they have a bye week next week, too, so it's a good chance if you want to hit the ejection seat on Columbus, this week's the week to do it.
Speaking of, never mind. I think that's pretty much all we have. I mean, any other differential options, especially DGW differential options we have today?
Oh, I have Rivas on my team still. I had set this. I had planted this differential a couple of weeks ago, hoping for healthy Rivas, but unfortunately he hasn't panned out the way I hoped. He was out with the groin last week. I'm gonna save my transfers until 8 o'clock tomorrow when the deadline comes in, and I'll make my call then. But if Rivas plays, I might keep him there as the differential.
I would say Rivas looked like one hell of a differential, even at his $8 price point a couple weeks ago. He's playing really well, getting at least 5 points a game, I think. So at that price point, I'd take that. I mean, he's a dangerous player on his day.
And he gets a ton of attacking points. The last game against NYCFC, he chugged in 6 fantasy points, even with the yellow card. So it's that's the kind of production you want out of a DGW. Or he doesn't necessarily score, but he produces in other ways for you. So that's what makes Rivas a special talent.
You want the bonuses. This is the time of the year. This is the time of the year where you better go goal hunting instead of clean sheet hunting. It's a hell of a lot easier to find goals than clean sheets.
Absolutely.
And last but not least, who are you choosing for your captain this week?
I am going with Kaká personally. It's just I feel he's going to go 180 in both matches. He's got the weakened Union that are coming to the Citrus Bowl. Their defense is completely decimated. They don't have their defensive midfielder Nagoriera, so they are really, really hurting out there. So I think Kaká's the best bet, and he still takes PKs too. Where are you going, Derek?
I almost forgot about the Nogueira injury. I actually have 2 possible options. Actually 3 now that we talked about one of them in the show. If I decide to go with that differential captain, Robbie Keane's always a good decision. You can't go wrong there. But number 2 option, I'm looking at Kaká. Once I pick him up, I haven't picked him up yet. But pretty much everything you said is true about him. I'm hoping for without the captain honestman, I'm hoping for at least 12 points from Kaká this week, which means if you captain him, he'll give you 24. Always
fantastic.
But my number 1 option, and it's going to be really hard for me to switch my mind right now, Ignacio Piatti as my captain. 2 home games. I know it's against New York and D.C., but he had 15 points against New York this week, away from home. He's a lot better player at home.
And I mean, the only remotely downside to Piatti is the fact that he's likely not going to go 180. Klopas is very conservative with him, and he usually goes about 75 to 80 a match. So, but he produces in the time he's given, and that is a very good captain pick.
Still, I mean, I'll probably get down to 7:59 p.m. and decide my captain.
I'm in that same boat, my friend, the same boat.
Other than that, I don't got much for y'all. Good luck this week. We do have another DGW coming up in week 25. We'll get to that next week. You should start preparing for that after this week. It's not as good as this one. Good luck for this game. Hopefully we can get 6 points this week. It'll be huge for our personal playoff chances for Orlando City. And I'm hoping I can finally beat Chris this week. He's been kicking my ass lately.
I know. Just gotta best of luck to you with that. I'm gonna do my best to make sure that doesn't happen, though.
All right. Well, I do my match preview every week, and I give my predictions there. And I've usually been asking Derek to give his predictions for the games in Fantasy Outlook. So we'll stick to that trend, and we'll also invite Chris to get in on this action. So let's get a match preview, or let's get a match prediction for Toronto on Wednesday. Chris first, then Derek.
Oh, feeling very good on Wednesday night. I think with Bradley being questionable and Altidore being out, there's no excuse for us not to walk out of there with 3 points. So I'm gonna go with a 3-2 Orlando City win. Good job, race.
And Derek?
Pretty much the same thing he said. I mean, we had one hell of a game against Columbus. We just need to focus on the defense, and without Bradley and Altidore, this will hopefully be the game for do it. Hopefully we could close down the space for Sebastian Jovinko. That'll be huge for Seren Higuita to do that. Away from home, I think we could take the 3 points. I'm going to go 3-1.
All right, well, I picked 3-0, Derek picks 3-1, Chris picks 3-2. So, there we have it all across the board, guys. Thank you, Derek, for your help every week, Fantasy Outlook. I appreciate it. Chris, a pleasure having you on this week.
Thanks for having me, Sam. I appreciate it.
Of course, if it works out and you want to come back on, just talk to Derek about it, because this is his thing, and, I just do introductions. So, with that said, guys, thank you, and they will be back in some form, maybe one of them, maybe two of them, for Fantasy Outlook Week 24. There you have it, guys.
Sounds great, guys.
Thanks for the watch. Bye now.
Thanks.